There is a woman sitting alone. She is dressed as a widow. Her face is partly covered, and she waits beside the road near the entrance of a small town called Enaim. Travelers pass by, merchants come and go. Dust rises beneath the feet of passing animals. But Tamar is not waiting for just anyone. She is waiting for a man who does not recognize her. And what happens next will become one of the strangest and most uncomfortable stories in the Bible. A story about a widow, a powerful family, a broken promise, a hidden identity, and a truth that will eventually force a respected man to say words that change everything. She is more righteous than I am. Genesis 38:26. But how does a woman end up sitting beside a road, disguised and waiting for her father-in-law? To understand that moment, we have to go back, much further back. The story begins with Judah, one of the 12 sons of Jacob. Judah comes from a powerful family. His father is Jacob. His grandfather is Isaac. His great-grandfather is Abraham. The family carries a promise from God. But Judah's own life is beginning to move in a different direction. He separates himself from his brothers and settles among the people of Canaan. There, Judah marries a Canaanite woman. They have 3 sons, Onan and Shelah. As the years pass, Judah arranges a marriage for his firstborn son, The young woman's name is Tamar. She enters Judah's family as a wife with hopes for a future. She expects a home. She expects children. She expects a family. But Tamar's future is about to disappear before her eyes. Tamar becomes the wife of Judah's firstborn son, At first, perhaps she believes that her life is finally beginning. But the Bible gives us a disturbing detail. Is wicked. Genesis tells us Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. Genesis 38:7. The Bible does not tell us exactly what does. It simply tells us that his behavior is wicked before God, and suddenly Tamar becomes a widow. Her husband is gone. Her future is uncertain. And in the ancient world, being a childless widow can leave a woman extremely vulnerable. But Tamar is not simply sent away. There is a family responsibility. Judah tells his second son, Onan, to fulfill his duty toward Tamar and provide offspring for his deceased brother's family line. Tamar waits. She trusts the family. She believes there is still a path forward, but Onan refuses to fulfill that responsibility. His actions are selfish, and God judges him as well. Onan dies. Now Tamar has lost 2 husbands, and there is still 1 son left, Shelah. Tamar is now a widow twice over. Judah looks at the situation and makes a decision. He tells Tamar to return to her father's household and remain a widow until his youngest son, Shelah, grows up. It sounds like a promise. A future is still possible. So Tamar returns to her father's home. She waits. Months pass, then years. The seasons change. The young widow continues waiting. But something is wrong. Shelah grows older, and Judah does not send for Tamar. Judah has apparently decided that he will not give his youngest son to her. Tamar is trapped. She has been promised a future, but the promise is never fulfilled. She has no husband, no children, no security, and no clear way to change her situation. Tamar's story reminds us that injustice is not always loud. Sometimes injustice looks like a promise that is made and then quietly forgotten. Then something changes. Judah's wife dies. He mourns her. Afterward, Judah travels to Timnah, where his sheep shearers are working. Sheep shearing is more than ordinary work. It is a time of celebration, food, wine, business, community. And Judah is traveling toward the place where his flocks are being sheared. Tamar hears that Judah is going to Timnah, and suddenly she understands something. Sheila is grown, but Judah has never fulfilled his promise. She has been waiting for a future that is never coming. So Tamar makes a dangerous decision. She removes her widow's clothing. She covers herself with a veil, and she sits beside the road at Enaim. She is no longer presenting herself as Tamar the widow. She is concealing her identity. And soon, Judah approaches. Judah sees the veiled woman sitting beside the road. He does not recognize her. He approaches. And here the story becomes uncomfortable. Judah believes Tamar is a prostitute. He asks to sleep with her. She asks what he will give her. Judah promises to send her a young goat from his flock. But Tamar asks for something more immediate. She asks for his seal, cord, and staff. These objects are important. They are personal identifiers. They belong to Judah. They can prove who he is. Judah gives them to her as a pledge. Then he sleeps with her. Afterward, Tamar leaves. She removes the disguise. And the mystery deepens. She is carrying something far more valuable than Judah realizes. She is carrying his identifying possessions. And soon, she is carrying his child. The next day, Judah sends his friend to find the woman. He wants his goat back. But there is a problem. The woman is gone. The friend searches. He asks the local people, "Where is the shrine prostitute who was here at Enaim?" The people answer, "There has never been such a woman here." Judah is confused. The woman has vanished, but she has left something behind, something that Judah will eventually recognize. 3 months later, Judah receives shocking news. Tamar is pregnant. The news spreads quickly. Judah is furious. He believes Tamar has committed a serious offense. He orders that she be brought out and punished. But Tamar does something unexpected. She does not immediately accuse him. She does not shout. She does not reveal everything. Instead, she sends a message. She sends Judah the objects she has kept, his seal, his cord, his staff. And she says, "I am pregnant by the man to whom these belong." Genesis 38:25. Then comes the question, do you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are? Imagine the silence. Judah looks at the objects. His anger disappears. The truth is standing in front of him. The woman he condemned is the woman he has wronged, and now Judah must face himself. Judah has a choice. He can continue defending himself. He can blame Tamar. He can pretend the evidence means nothing. But he doesn't. Instead, Judah says, "She is more righteous than I am." Genesis 38:26. Those words are powerful. Judah finally acknowledges that Tamar has been treated unfairly. He recognizes that he failed to give her his son Shelah, as promised. And the man who was ready to condemn Tamar now admits his own failure. Sometimes the hardest words to speak are not, "I forgive you." They are, "I was wrong." Judah's story is beginning to change, but Tamar's story is not finished. The story takes another surprising turn. Tamar gives birth, but she does not give birth to one child. She gives birth to twins. The first child begins to emerge. A hand appears. The midwife ties a scarlet thread around the baby's wrist. "This one came out first," she says. But suddenly the baby pulls his hand back, and another child comes out first. The family is astonished. The firstborn is named Perez. The second is named Zerah. The story that begins with a woman seemingly forgotten now produces 2 sons. And one of those sons, Perez, becomes an important part of the family line. Generations later, his name appears in the genealogy of King David, and eventually in the genealogy recorded in Matthew, Perez is included in the lineage leading to Jesus Christ. A woman who seems forgotten becomes part of a story much larger than herself. At first, Tamar's story looks like a story about desperation. Then, it looks like a story about deception. Then, it becomes a story about injustice. But when we step back, another pattern appears. Tamar becomes part of the family line through which the story of Israel continues. Perez becomes the ancestor of important generations. And eventually, the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew 1 includes Tamar by name. Matthew says, Judah, the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. Matthew 1:3. Think about that. The Bible does not erase Tamar's complicated story. It remembers her pain, her courage, her difficult choices, her place in Judah's family, and her place in the genealogy of Christ. The woman sitting beside the road is eventually remembered in Scripture itself. God sees people who feel forgotten. Tamar spends years waiting. She is not at the center of the family. She has no power. She has no public position. Yet her story becomes part of Scripture. Sometimes our lives can feel invisible. We may wonder whether anyone sees our pain or remembers our sacrifices. Tamar's story reminds us that being overlooked by people does not mean being overlooked by God. A broken promise has consequences. Judah promises Tamar that she will receive Shelah, but he does not keep his word. His failure places Tamar in an extremely vulnerable position. The story reminds us that our promises matter. Our words can give people hope, and when we break them, our actions can hurt people deeply. True humility is admitting when we are wrong. Perhaps the most powerful moment belongs to Judah. He could continue pretending. Instead, he says, "She is more righteous than I." Those words reveal a change in his character. A proud person protects his reputation. A humble person accepts the truth. God can bring redemption out of broken stories. Tamar's story is complicated. It contains grief, death, injustice, deception, shame, and difficult decisions. Yet God continues working through this imperfect family. This does not mean every action in the story should be copied or approved. Rather, it shows something profound. Human brokenness does not have the final word. God can continue his purposes even through circumstances that seem hopeless. The woman who is remembered. Return to the road, the same road where Tamar once sits alone. The dust is still there. The hills are still there. The sun still rises over Canaan. But Tamar is no longer sitting alone. She is holding her children. Her story has changed. The woman who once waits for a promise is now part of a legacy. The woman who seems forgotten is remembered. The woman who has suffered injustice becomes part of the lineage through which the biblical story moves toward David and ultimately toward Christ. And perhaps that is the mystery hidden inside Tamar's story. Sometimes, while we are living through the most confusing chapter of our lives, we cannot see what the next chapter will become. We only see the road. God sees the entire journey. So when you feel forgotten, when a promise has been broken, when someone has treated you unfairly, when your story seems too complicated to have meaning, remember Tamar. Her story begins with loss. It passes through uncertainty. It moves through courage, and it ends with her name written into the story of redemption. The lesson is simple. Your difficult chapter is not necessarily your final chapter. God sees what others overlook. Truth eventually comes to light. And sometimes the story that looks broken in the middle is being woven into something far greater than you can see. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7.